And welcome to the SFL podcast, everyone, for week 3 of the winter 2018 season. I'm your host, Jack Brown, joined by my analysts, Mighty RX and Ramos Lynn. This week, we're going to be running down through the same stuff as last week. We are going to give our teams of the week, we're going to give our players of the week, then we're also going to run down the Sunday slate, we're going to go into Saturday's game, and finally, we're going to end off with a new segment here on the SFL podcast called Bold Predictions. Don't know what bold predictions are? Well, we'll explain that to you later. First off, with the week 2 action, Mighty, who is your team out of this week?
My team of the week is the Carolina Skyhawks. They very much came through when everybody was doubting them as they were facing the defending champions, and they battled and were able to eke out a victory, their first victory of the season. AJ Francis, I try to warn y'all coming into the season, he was going to be a problem, and he was exactly that. He was even able to respond to a Ray Bentley run after the third quarter that kind of got Mexi back in the game with his own long run, but he ran out of steam towards the 15. But Carolina was still able to capitalize and turn into a touchdown. So big ups to Carolina there.
Yeah, and to add on there, man, AJ Francis is currently running back for the Carolina Skyhawks. He's the second best RB in the league right now, behind only Ray Bentley by just 15 yards. Now that's something to take note of. Ramos, who is your team after this week?
Well, the team that really caught my attention this week was the London Knights. I think that they did a tremendous job on both sides of the football. They were able to score 36 points against the Vancouver Legion, which many people will say last season probably they should have been in the championship game. Some people will say, and they limited that offense to only 3 points. So I really like what the new expansion team, the London Knights, are doing, and with player progression, with players getting better, I think that they will be a hard team to stop. I really love their offense. It's not very flashy, but what they do it very, very well.
Yeah, very, very flashy. Not very flashy. And actually, that game right there against Vancouver, that's actually now put them into positive point differential territory. They've now put up 49 points while only giving up 41. Mighty, my man, we're going to go down to players. Who do you have to say is the player of the week?
Before I get to my player, just big ups to Liam on that first franchise victory. Hopefully, there are many more to come. Player of the week for me, though, is big boy Mike Fats Johnson from the Tallahassee Pride. He came through in a big way. 10 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. He was just a monster. Watching that game, every time it seemed that Atlanta wanted to run that stretch play, he was just blowing it up in the backfield, causing them to have to go even further down in distances, which he in turn was able to get after their quarterback to make his life miserable. Big ups to Mike Fats Johnson. Y'all know I love the big guy.
Yeah, that and all as a rookie in this league. Ramos, why don't you give us your little player of the week right there?
Well, I will make it a sweep right here because I will go with another Tallahassee Pride player. I will go with Ken Gossett, Kenny Jesus, 10 catches, 234 yards. His longest was 63, and he got 1 tub. And, Ken Gossett, there are great players in Tallahassee, but I think Ken Gossett is the motor that keeps this Tallahassee offense going. And if you want to win, you got to give them the ball to number 84. He is your playmaker. He is just so good running those deep routes. And he has amazing hands. So I have Ken Gossett to make it 2 for 2 here this week.
Yeah, Ken Gossett came up with 234 yards total in last week's game, along with a touchdown. Definitely worthy of that nice little player of the week nod. So now with all that, we're going to head over into some little game action. First off, on Sunday at 3 p.m., we have the Atlanta Swarm traveling up to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, to take on the Sioux Falls Sparrows. Ramos, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be crucial for Sioux Falls to be able to stop that running game, and I think it's going to be a game of who can win the trenches is going to win the game. Because Atlanta does have a nasty defensive tackle that Sioux Falls needs to take care of. And I think that Sioux Falls with that front seven, with all those linebackers, I think that is going to be very important for Atlanta, that their offensive line to, block and protect their quarterback as well as opening lanes for the running back. I think that is going to be the key of this game. I'm leaning towards Sioux Falls to win this ball game. It will not surprise me if Atlanta wins this game. I think it's going to be extremely close. I will go with the Sparrows.
Yeah, definitely. The Sparrows have the best rush defense in the league with only 47 yards being given up from them per game. Also, at that time, we have the Carolina Skyhawks taking their plane over to London to take on the London Knights. Mighty, why don't you show us what we're to expect here?
Well, in this matchup here between these two franchises, this will be their first time meeting each other. So we don't really have a predetermining factor in that area there. So we got to look at where they've been placed in this league so far, how their play has been dictated. Carolina brings in the number 6 scoring defense. London brings in the number 6 scoring offense, so it's very even matchup there. On the other side of the coin, though, Carolina brings in the number 13 scoring offense going against the number 8 scoring defense of London. That might be a little problematic there. Though we love AJ Francis, Mark Biddix has been struggling. He's second to last in yards per pass attempt in the league. He does not stretch the field enough. And he also only has 1 touchdown pass. So coming into this matchup against London, we know Liam. He's starting to get his feet under him as an owner and be able to coach up that defense. It's going to be an uphill struggle for Carolina to be able to eke out of there with a win. I like London in this matchup.
Yeah, London definitely a good team there going up against that not very hot pass defense from Carolina. Also in the Eastern Conference that week, we have the Queen City Corsairs playing against the Tallahassee Pride in Tallahassee. Going to be a tough game there for Queen City. Now, Mighty, again, who do you think is going to win out of these two very tough teams?
Now, these teams aren't new. They've been around for a minute, but they just recently started playing each other. Currently, their franchise series is tied 2-2. Tallahassee, though, home's a 2-1 edge at home. All the games in Tallahassee Stadium have been lopsided in some way, some form. The two that Tallahassee won, they won going away. The one that Queen City won, they won going away. They all had big first halves to give them the lead, and then they coasted in the second half. In this matchup here, we have Queen City with the number 13 scoring offense coming to Tallahassee, facing the number 3 scoring defense. And then in converse, you see Queen City's number 13 scoring defense having to go off against Tallahassee, number 3 scoring offense. Tallahassee, a lot of balance. We just had a player of the week where Mike Fast Johnson basically dominated the game. If Tallahassee gets up early, as I explained, fast starts and kind of dictate how the game goes. Tallahassee, I like them to get up early, between Kennedy and Duke Wilson. They have some big play potential at receiver, having to face the non-star corners of Queen City. They get up 14 points early. That takes Ash Odom out the game. And that's where I like Tallahassee's D-line to kind of tee off and, put some heat on the AJ Caswell. I like Tallahassee in this matchup.
Yeah, and going on about your D-line talk there, Tallahassee actually has 2 of the top 3 leading sackers in this league, with I think Fats Johnson taking the top prize there. Next up, we're heading off to St. Louis, Missouri for a nice little Central Conference showdown between the OKC Renegades and the St. Louis Gladiators. My man Ramos, what do you have to say about this?
Well, I think that is going to be a game that is going to be won or lost by the Oklahoma City quarterback, Deacon Nickens. I do see St. Louis probably having the high hand on this one, because I just like their team more and how they're built on their offense and defense. It just looks more solid to me, and it looks like they can just make a little bit more plays or just, be more consistent throughout 4 quarters of the ball game. I do love the Oklahoma City tight end. I think that he can be a big factor in this game for Oklahoma City to pull off this win. I think that he might have about 80 to 120 yards in this ball game. But at the end of the day, I like St. Louis to make one more play at the end. I'm looking at a score probably 17-13 St. Louis. And but I will not discount Oklahoma City altogether. I just think St. Louis can make one more play than the Oklahoma City Renegades.
Yeah, that certainly is a very wise prediction right there, as I think when I did my own personal dive, St. Louis had a pretty strong offense overall. We're going to head out to the West Coast next up for a game between the Vancouver Legion and the San Francisco Sharks, two teams that have been struggling throughout these first couple weeks. Mighty, what do you have to say about this game?
Well, this is another game where we have these franchises facing off for the first time. Vancouver brings in the number 17 scoring offense against San Francisco's number 16 scoring defense. Vancouver also brings in the worst scoring defense in the league, going against San Fran's number 11 scoring offense. Now, Vancouver has been struggling mightily on both sides of the ball. They're running on offense. They struggle running it. They struggle throwing it consistently, and they also struggle to stop passers. Receivers have had big days against them. Optimus in week 1 had a big day. I believe the receiver for London, his name escapes me. I'm sorry, but he had a big day as well. He had like 4 catches for 100 yards last week. San Fran this week dropped a couple guys and made some adjustments to their build where they picked up another receiver. So now their offense is a little more balanced. They have 2 receivers and a tight end, and I believe that'll give San Fran the edge necessary to eke out a W in this ballgame.
That and San Fran has I think they have the second best rush defense this league has to offer. And then finally for the Sunday afternoon slate, we head up to the bitter cold of Alaska as the San Antonio Vaqueros head up to take on the Alaska Storm. Ramos, what are we to expect from this game?
Well, I'm really expecting 2 teams that they do not shy away from throwing the ball. I really love Alaska in this game. They are at home, and I just love their offense with that running back. It might be a non-star, might be not a guy that you will see in the stat sheet, but he can score. He can score touchdowns, and I love their quarterback this season. So I will go with Alaska. I think Alex Dominguez will be able to have a big game this week. It's going to be at the beginning, I think, a little bit hard for both teams to score. Probably we're looking at a 0-0 game after the first quarter. But then I think that both teams will be able to put up points. So I'll go Alaska, maybe about 26-20.
Yeah, in Alaska, they have the best defense in the league by far. They only have given
Right.
8.5 points per game. That's not something to scoff at. Next up that night, we have a game between 2 expansion teams in the Central Conference brawling. The Indianapolis Red Devils will be traveling off to Tulsa, Oklahoma for a nice little showdown there. My man, Mighty, give us your breakdown into this game.
This game here, you got Tulsa coming in. Their offense is, it does enough to win the game. Defensively, they're a problem and a half, especially their big defensive tackle, who kind of tends to live in opponents' backfields or commands enough attention that other guys can get some shine. Indianapolis, with that red-hot offense, Nathan Lee just chucking it all over the place. I think he threw a touchdown to the cheerleader last week. It was crazy. But I like Tulsa this game. I don't know what it is about their defense and their running back. They find ways to make their running back be productive, whether it be running the ball, or in the passing game where they keep them involved either with swings or screens, and they do just enough to keep their defense off the field and rested enough to make a difference on the other side of the ball. So I like in a high teen, low 20s ball game. I like Tulsa to eke out a victory on Sunday night.
Yeah, Tulsa there, they actually have the first and third best or most interceptions in terms of the league, in terms of directly down to players. Ramos, are you going to agree with my man Mighty? Or do you have a little bit of are you going to pull Lee Corso here? Are you going to say not so fast?
I will go ahead and say no so fast. I think that they will be a fantastic game, as Mighty is saying. I will go probably with Indianapolis to go on the road and pull off this victory. probably by the facility of 23-20. I see two very high caliber teams that will be probably in the playoffs, and I just like Indianapolis just to pull this one off. Probably in the rematch, probably I will pick Tulsa. I will pick Tulsa, but I will go with Indy here tomorrow.
Yeah, Indy, a very strong team. They have the fourth best quarterback in the league with Nathan Lee, and they also, what you forgot to mention, they also have the fourth and fifth best wide receivers in the league. That's also some kind of interesting. And next up, Monday night, we have a rematch of the Season 9 championship between Mexico City and Chicago, two teams that have uncharacteristically been playing not their best football these first 2 weeks of Season 10. Mighty, what do you have to say about this?
Mexico City's been in every game. Chicago as well. I don't know what's up with Chicago's offense. It's not the same high-flying offense that we're accustomed to. It looks like they're still trying to find their bearings from losing the offensive coordinator. I don't know if this is the week where they'll be able to do so. Ray Bentley has been, maybe not the Ray Bentley of old, but he's starting to find and look like the Ray Bentley that we're accustomed to. The Bronze Bomber is going to find the plethora of weapons he has. Though Chicago's defense is strong, they're going to keep him in the game. But I don't know what it is about E.T. King in the offense. They just don't look the same. And for that effect, I can't like him in this matchup, in this rematch. We'll call it that of the championship game. Give me Mexico City and the Bronze Bomber to pull it out late.
Now, what's interesting there is that Ray Bentley, although he may not be like himself, he currently leads the league in rushing still. So, I mean, that should be scary for everybody else who has to take on Mexico City late in the season. Ramos, what do you have to say about your team, or I guess our team, coming into this Monday night showdown?
Yeah, I will piggyback again what Mighty just said. I think that it will be very important for both teams to establish a run game, looking at a analytic perspective. In this case, not trying to go. We need to establish the run game just like we did in the championship game to have a shot in winning this game. Chicago, low key, I like their defense. Their offense is not probably the same, but I think that they will improve very quick. So, if I have to pick this game from an analytics standpoint, looking at the stats, not going biased, all of that, I will still go with my team. But, it's going to be tough. It's going to be extremely tough. It's going to be a dogfight out there. So look forward for a fantastic game Monday night.
Yeah, and our defense is also pretty high power too. We have on our linebackers, we have Landon Mack and myself. Landon Mack having the second most tackles in the league. Also, someone should call the police there on Landon Mack for stealing all my tackles. Just saying right there. And now, of course, the game that we're here for, folks. This Saturday night, we have the Dallas Roughnecks taking on the Houston Hyenas, as Mighty here would say. And actually, you know what? Speaking of Mighty, why don't you give us a little bit of a deep dive into this series?
Well, in this battle of Texas, Dallas, Houston, they've both been around for quite a little while. They just started playing real recently. Their first game, everybody that's been in the SFL remember the first game when DR Sim did his best TO impersonation, caught a little drag route, and went 8 for the game winner. Saying all that, Houston holds a 3-1 edge versus Dallas all time, including 2-0 at home. In this game, we're gonna have the Dallas defense, which is ranked number 17 in the league, facing the number 18 offense, which is dead last in the league in Houston. Dallas brings in the number 7 offense that's facing the number 7 defense. So you're looking at your number like, man, this game here is gonna be like battle of weaknesses against battle of weaknesses kind of deal. Well, I have inside sources, people inside the Hyena camp have told me that DR Singh this week came in with a renewed focus because he did not like the way the offense looked. They have yet to score an offensive touchdown this season, so I expect him to open up the playbook a little more to use things that he might not have been accustomed to in the past. which include, you know, DR Sim returning to what he does best, and the that ilk. Um, William Murray has been a great outlet for their quarterback, but he's not running the ball efficiently enough. He's not being productive in their running game, causing him to be in a bunch of third and longs, and that's been kind of the big problem with their offense there. Looking even further inside the numbers as to why these teams are struggling, Ahmed Chima, I believe, has the lowest yards per attempt in the league per pass play, which means he's not stretching the field or not being successful stretching the field enough. And DR Sim is 6 yards lower yards per catch than his career average. For his career, he averaged 16 yards per catch. This season, he's averaging 10. That might explain why their offense is struggling. They have to find a way to get big plays involved in their offense to kind of get back the defense off, so William Murray can have some room to maneuver underneath.
Alrighty, and now we're going to go into some keys to the game. Ramos, give us your little keys to the game for these two teams as the analyst.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna say who's gonna win. I'm calling this game with Eric. So basically, Dallas has to be able to stop the long passes. They will not able to stop the long passes against Queen City. That's gonna be a big factor in this game. Then Houston needs to create turnovers and or a big play on special teams to give their offense a chance. They have not scored, as far as Houston, they have not scored an offensive touchdown this season. And finally, Houston needs to put pressure on the quarterback. They have 0 sacks this year so far. This is the third game, 0 sacks on the quarterback. So those are my 3 keys to the game. And if one of these teams is able to do so in a good fashion, it has the chance to win.
Alrighty, and now, of course, over to my main man, Mighty RX. Give us your keys to this game after going into that insanely deep dive.
Okay. I already touched upon it. DR Sim has to have a big game. He has to, be able to get to find a fountain of youth. William Murray, Groundhog Day. Bill Murray needs to find a way to be able to run the ball successfully. And conversely, Mike Davis, for Dallas to pull out a win tonight, Mike Davis got to do his fair share. He got to get to that 100-yard mark, to balance out their offense.
Alrighty, and before we go, we're going to start a new segment called Bold Predictions. Ramos, give us some bold predictions.
Well, my bold prediction is that 4 games this week will go to overtime. I don't think that has ever happened in the SFL, but I love the matchups this week. Very close, 4 games to overtime.
And also, Mighty, give us some bold predictions.
My bold prediction of the matchup of struggling offenses, the Vancouver-San Fran matchup, I expect that at least 10 interceptions in that ball game between both teams.
Alrighty, if you want your own bold predictions sent in, tag the SFL on Twitter with hashtag bold predictions and give us some bold predictions. And with that, we conclude this week's episode of the SFL podcast here on YouTube, presented by APM Music. Now go over and watch as Houston takes on Dallas in Houston, Texas.